is the second of my slave story installations. In the early 20th century, a black man, named No Turk, he was abducted. He was stolen by Barancus Cosby, the nephew of George Cosby and the son of W.D. Cosby. He was swept up in this elaborate slave ring of the South, simply for being, like a good worker. In the words of Cosby, a good hard art. All he was doing was walking home from work, and that's what I was saying how this all happened and what we can learn from this story, what we can learn from his story, so he doesn't die fully in vain. Firstly, he was just walking home from work. He was just minding his own business, trying to catch a train home. When he was stopped, he was approached by him, asked many questions like where he's going. He said he was going to work, which would be a smart thing to say, as it decreased the likelihood of you being stolen. Cosby kept pushing him, asking more questions. He told him, his family members, he told them he works. He told him that he knows lots of white people. Because Cosby tried to say, hey, you want a job? He's saying no, because he already has one. He was so good. He seemed like such a good citizen. But Cosby couldn't do anything but want him, anything but entangle him. He was punished for being too good of a citizen. If he didn't have a job, if he didn't know these white people, he probably still would have been taken, because he could have just been easily seen as someone committing vagrancy, which is another very common crime used to entrap people. The crime of just standing there. If you're a good citizen, you get punished. If you're a bad citizen, you get punished. If you're a medium citizen, you also likely get punished because you're black. They committed the cardinal sin of just being black. He tried. I mean, he left. After this, he did leave. But Cosby came back with a lot of other white men, and there's just nothing he could do. He can't fight them all off. And even if he could, what would happen then? What would he do then? He'd just be killed. So, of course, he had to follow him. He had to go to George Cosby's farm, where George did appear. He masqueraded as this white ally, as this progressive, as this white liberal almost. Like, he's a friend, he's your white friend. Saying, hey, just plead guilty. Just whatever they say you did, just plead guilty. I'll help you out. No. Turk was smart. He was too smart for that. He rejected it. He said, no. Let me telegraph my family. Let me talk to my family. I know my rights. Let me express them. Cosby tried to press him, say, no. We don't want to do that. You don't want to message home. But he still didn't listen. He said, you can either kill me or do whatever you please. He tried to resist, but it did not matter. Later that night, a mob of white people came, brought him to a justice of peace. The first justice of peace did say no. They said, no, I'm not doing that anymore. But the next morning, they brought him to another one. And this one, he didn't have the same moral code as the first. He was convicted. He was convicted of no one even knows what he was convicted of. He was just simply swept up. He was just taken and fined $15 as well as other various fines. And he could have maybe paid it off. He had a pocket watch and about $5 in his pocket, but the white men stole it. While they were bringing him around, they pickpocketed him. They ran through his pockets. They took all he had, so defeated, likely very just with no will left, no ability to fight left. He just accepted it. It was his fate. There was nothing he could do. You could say he had individual choice. Hey, he could have just answered differently. Hey, he could have just said no. He did. He tried to do these things, but it did not matter. They wanted him, so they took him. We make these assumptions of people. We say, hey, it's all their fault. We're not looking at the bigger context. Yes, I know, this is slavery, but this is slavery during... There's no way you can listen to this story and say he was not a slave. You just can't. There's no argument against that. And if there is, what is it? What is our argument for how this is not slavery? He was kidnapped, bought, and sold. The buying part comes in the quote-unquote fines. They would pay off the debts, and then you have to now work off it through a labor contract. They paid to have the black man work for them. It's that simple. It was essentially a plea deal. And they say, I'll pay your plea deal if you work for me, if you work off your debt. He was just bought. And in other examples, they will sell black people as well. Individual responsibility is not nearly as simple as people would want you to believe. This is still during a time when people, like a very common consensus was that black people were equal, treated equally, even if they were the special favor of the law. It's still an idea that's pushed today. It was pushed in the 40s, it's pushed in the 60s, pushed in the 80s, pushed now. This has been pushed for a long time. The black people have it. The black and other minority groups have it equal, have it even better than white people, saying that white people are the oppressed minority. Are you really going to listen to this and say that they weren't oppressed? We know that they were oppressed. We know it. What makes now any different? We've been saying the same rhetorics for about 150 years. What makes this time any different from the 4, 5, 6 countless other times? What change have we gone under? What change?